Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever in the world you may be joining us from today. My name is Francesco Del Carpio, and I am the CFAL York Operations Coordinator. I would like to officially open the third session of the Sustainable Economic Growth and Prosperity Speaker Series. I will begin today with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territory upon which our campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. The area is known as Tekaronto and has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and that the territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. As this is an online event and our participants may be joining from various locations, I strongly encourage you to learn about the traditional land upon which you are located. With this, I welcome our moderator, our speakers, and our participants from around the world. Welcome to our webinar. It is now my great pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Dana Abou Shackra. Dana Abou Shackra is a business innovation program manager, product manager, entrepreneurial educator, business consultant, and digital marketer. She is passionate about innovation in a way that transcends work to help businesses unlock their full potential and succeed in the marketplace. She has worked with diverse organizations comprising of academic institutions, government, private sector, nonprofits, and NGOs, including Toronto Metropolitan University's DMZ, American University of Beirut, Lebanese American University, NDU, Rural Entrepreneurs, UNICEF, Conrad Adenauer Stiftung, USAID, Bear Tech, Global Entrepreneurship Network, Hope Prize, and Park Innovation. Dana's experience working in Canada and abroad has given her insights on international business and the global impact of innovation. She believes that we all need to play a role in leveraging innovation for societal livelihood, economic prosperity, and environmental sustainability. Dana, thank you very much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today and moderating the session.
Thank you, Francesco. I should shorten that bio. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's Stiftung. It's a difficult German word to say, but a great organization. Thank you all for being here with us today at our speaker series discussing important topics around entrepreneurship, economic development, and sustainable development goals. Today's topic is entrepreneurship in challenging times. We want to talk about the elephant in the room. These sessions are meant to be intimate, similar to fireside chat, bringing about important, productive discourse. I look forward to introducing our guests today. Before, I just want to go through some housekeeping items. We are leaving all questions until the end of the session. Although we do encourage you to add commentary and meet one another in the chat, please use the Q&A box for all questions. Or if you'd like, at the end of the session, you can put up your hand and we're happy to pass over the mic, but questions might get lost in Q&A. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce our three esteemed speakers. Their bios are all very extensive, so I picked three interesting key facts about each one in no specific order. We'll begin with Ramona. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Ramona has 25 years of experience under the business development and support umbrella. She is an international speaker and currently the program manager for My Main Street, engaging over 650 business owners across the province. She also has experience with mom and pop and retail shops. I think some of the stores that employ and maintain livelihood for a lot of our citizens. Great to have you with us. Up next, we have David. David is a visionary ecosystem developer. He is currently the Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at YSpace, having raised over $14 million to expand its impact. Great to have you with us. And also we have Jason. Jason is the founder and CEO of Evolution Data. Prior, he worked with some of the country's leading tech and wireless and telecommunications companies. He brings 20 years of sales and relationship expertise, and now he's leading the way in wireless data and IoT with Evolution Data. If you notice, we have a unique blend in our panel today of program management, ecosystem development, and an entrepreneur himself. And so we look forward to seeing all angles in this discussion. Again, these are the 3 items we are covering, and we would like to know what you want to know. So please bring in the questions. Our definition of economic development is based on the process by which the economic, sorry, one second, I pulled up the toolbar. Economic well-being and quality of life of a nation, region, or local community are improved. And sustainable development is looking at environmental, economic, and social elements within development of a country and of our overall world. As for entrepreneurship, we don't really give it a definition, and we leave that to you, as it has many, and we will be discussing that today. I really want to remove this annotation. Let's see, oh, no. Sorry about that. Let me just get this out of the way because my perfectionism will, okay, there we go. So I want to now open the floor to our panels. How are you? Would you like to add anything to your bios and intros that I've left out?
No, I think my biggest add to this panel is the fact that I do a lot of work with Main Street small businesses, and we're seeing a really big change in the types of businesses that you see and what is available for a small business owner. So that's kind of the focus that I'm bringing and the lens that I'm bringing to this.
Excellent. Thank you, Ramona. Jason, how about you? Would you like to add anything? Tell us a little more.
No, thanks for the great introduction. The only thing I'll add is that you know, the way entrepreneurship and sustainability are kind of tied together is a very interesting, or we're finding it a very interesting combination, because you're really trying to create solutions for customers, and at the same time sustainability is a big underlying theme. So one of the things I recently had to do with an RFP response is I actually had to put a sustainability statement for our organization. So you're finding that becoming more of a requirement now to do business. And if you're an entrepreneur looking to build a business, you definitely want to make sure that you have your eye on sustainability. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. David, how about you?
I think the only thing I add, and thank you for that introduction, it was great, is that we are starting to see a lot more folks kind of get into the space of kind of building a business, but not only with what we say, the triple bottom line, so people profit and planet. I think that's becoming more and more important. I think, we're also seeing more impact-driven investors with funds that are specifically looking at impact-driven businesses and what does that look like, and then impact reports as well. So it's becoming a very important topic, and I think we're seeing it be less of a trend and more like a day-to-day conversation that we're having with folks. So this is a crucial topic that we're bringing forward as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so how are your organizations working to weave economic outcomes with sustainable outcomes as well, on one side? And then also, how are you working in entrepreneurship? And giving us more details into how you're doing that. We'll start with Ramona. Please go ahead.
So as a coach and consultant in the small business space, a lot of the group that I work with are micro businesses. So very, very small. If you look at in Canada right now, 70% of businesses, registered businesses, are actually sole proprietorships with 0 employees. And so this is starting to show us a real trend in kind of 2 things, is that people are really embracing the concept of being entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial, but it's also showing us another really rather disturbing trend in the fact that people have like a full-time gig and entrepreneurship is now becoming a side hustle. And this is the economic reality for a lot of people, is that they're looking at entrepreneurship as a way to be able to enhance their lives and the lives of people around them. And so we're really seeing this in Main Street communities. And so the work that I do in the Main Streets, we're seeing a really big switch in the way that people perceive post-COVID The way that they look at their main streets, the way that they look at small business has totally shifted. And people are really looking and wanting to come back to communities and places where they feel a sense of connection. And so the concept of sustainability, economic development, all of those areas become really, really important. People, we saw a very big movement of people moving, we saw immigration and migration even within Canada, and people going back to their hometowns. We saw people change their value systems post-COVID more so than they did pre-COVID. And so we're seeing that entrepreneurship and Main Street growth, sometimes business owners aren't necessarily recognizing that. And that's the work that I kind of do as a business coach, helping people look at how important your small business on this little street in this little place is to the actual microsystem of your community and your city. And so we're really I really do a lot of work with entrepreneurs, telling them that be the best that you can be in your backyard. Like we got into this space where technology has allowed us to sell to the world, but the world doesn't necessarily need what each of us is selling. And so we really need to look at what is the impact we make in our community and how can we drive that impact, and that is eventually going to benefit us economically as business owners, but morally as being a member of that greater community. So that's kind of what I focus on right now, getting people to shift their thinking from retail, competitive capitalism to how can I do what I do in an environment that benefits more than just the bottom line.
Thank you very much. Could you clarify for the audience what Main Street represents?
So Main Street, so in terms of my Main Street, it
Yes,
is
your Main
looking
Street.
at, my Main Street looks at, we are looking at the core hubs, the downtown. The concept of Main Street really is, some of it is sort of a gathering place where people would gather together, where they would be involved in commerce, the central meeting place of a community. So these definitions can change depending on where you live. And there is a very big difference between, an urban center versus a rural center, and how they look at what a main street means to them. It's not necessarily geography based, it's also ideology based. In terms of what does that look like for you as a community. And so I'm going to take it in its very simplistic roots, is where is the gathering place? Where is the heart of a community? That really is considered to be your main street.
Love it. Thank you. It goes back to one of my favorite quotes, which is think global, but act local.
Correct.
Yeah.
So true.
Thank you. David, can you tell us a little bit about YSpace? Economy, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development there.
Yeah. So at YSpace, we're part of York University. We're the incubator accelerator for the university, where we work not only with our students, faculty, and alumni, but then largely into the community as well. So we support entrepreneurs across the country looking to either launch their businesses, grow their businesses, and then most recently we started looking at international companies that are looking to set up in Canada as well. We've about 25 different programs that we run across the team. So if you have an idea, we're more than happy to support across our educational programs or our scale programs. In terms of how we're kind of touching base in terms of kind of working with the UN SDGs specifically, as well as we do have a couple programs. So two programs specifically we have that's specific to kind of different audiences. One is called Ella. It's our Women Entrepreneurship program. So it's a national program where it's really focused on helping women entrepreneurs understand how they can either launch a business or scale. And this can be anywhere from, mom and pop shop, service-based business, product-based business, or technology business. When we started this program, we did a bunch of research and realized that there was a lot of really strong women-led businesses that was in service and product already. And there wasn't a lot of programming out there and support out there to kind of help those businesses scale up and grow. So we really focused and doubled down on how do we support that group and help them become tech enabled to create efficiencies, to help with scalability purposes, and then help them really scale those businesses. So we focus on that quite a bit. And our Ella program has 3 different streams. And then we also have a Black entrepreneurship program, and that is where we really partnered and focus on capacity building within the community. So rather than being York University feeling like we have to create all the programs, we partner with the Black Creek Community Health Center and said, you know, we have great, amazing programs. You have really strong ties into the community and the Jane and Finch community. How do we support you in terms of developing some programming that's going to help your local community of folks who are either wanting to start a business or have an idea and want to explore starting a business. And then the last piece also, if they just want some skills, they want to develop a little bit of entrepreneurial skills, you know, problem solving, creative thinking, outside the box thinking skills. So what we focus on is partnering with them and doing a trainer approach where we're working with the community to really help them understand how they can deliver and design some programs that's unique to their community and unique to the lived experiences of individuals within the Jane Finch community, and then really help them grow from there, and then have our team coming in more as a programming expertise and background, but then having their lived experiences add on to it. And what we've seen is interesting. I think to Ramona's points earlier, we're seeing a lot more side hustles. We're seeing a lot more folks who are, you know, let's be honest, it's with inflation and the way that the world is going, everything's really expensive. So everyone's constantly looking at what is a way I can make an extra couple dollars to improve my standard of living, to be able to pay for things that I need to. So we are seeing a lot of folks who has never thought about a business, but now exploring it or wanting to know, you know, what is the process? What does this look like? I think the curiosity is also there on top of just kind of the basic needs, where they want to explore a little bit more. So we started looking at a lot of programs that we call the red light, green light programs within our each verticals. And it's really the idea of helping individuals very quickly within a span of 4 to 6 weeks identified if their business idea that they have is worth pursuing. Is it really going to be, you know, something that you can do on the side? Is it something that's going to be something that can make you money, or is it something that you really ultimately want to do? So we call it red light, green light, because at the end of the 4 to 6 week program where you get education, coaching, and training, you kind of go, green light, amazing. There's a business market need. I can generate a little bit of revenue. It could be a side income or it could be full-time business. Let's go ahead and do it. Or red light, not what I thought it was. Totally off the rocker. Not what I want at all. Let me stop here before I do too much. So we're trying to come in at a point where we can help folks make quick, semi-quick decisions before they kind of spend too much of their time and efforts and dollars, honestly, in creating something that might not have a market need or a market fit. So that's primarily a lot of what we focus on right now, is helping individuals really understand kind of their living situations and what makes sense in the world of entrepreneurship. I think it's been a lot of, you know, folks love the word entrepreneurship. Media's made it really glorified. Everyone talks about how amazing it is. But we try to be realistic with our participants and understanding, you know, based off your situation, social, financial, and everything else, does it make sense for you right now? And what is the best option for you? And just making sure that they're making the best decisions for themselves and their family. And then understanding as well kind of what are the situations that they're going to be getting into. So we also do a lot of what we call Ask Me Anythings or lunch and learns with founders who have failures, and just be totally honest. So we work on bring folks who come in and say, you know, they had a product failure or their company went through bankruptcy, what happened. So we're trying to also shed light on the other side, so folks have a better understanding from economic side of, like, you know, it's not all about, you know, raising capital, doing this, all the good stuff. There's also all the hardships that come with it and all the potential debt you're going to have to incur, the financing rounds you got to go through, or, you know, making payrolls, as crazy as it sounds. So we try to make sure we shed light on the entire process so that folks have a very clear understanding going in, and it's transparent for them and they know, so that it's nothing that really scares them by the time it comes, and then creating that community around it. So that's kind of what we do in terms of the program that we have, in terms of how we foresee it from an economic development standpoint, is really understanding, you know, helping them make conscious decisions that's ultimately the best for their lives. Because what we always say, at the end of the day, the entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, but at the end of the day, they got to survive and they got to make sure what's right for them is the best business decision for them as well.
Yeah, and this concept of side hustle is very interesting, and we will circle back to it, because despite the fact that entrepreneurship is challenging these days, so is employment, finding employment secure and long-term. So we will come back to it. Just to clarify for the audience, as an academic accelerator, do you only support students from the university, or are academic accelerators in general, like YSpace, open to everybody?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it depends. I would say, depending on different universities. For us, we're focused on everyone across the country. So we don't have we will work with our students, but we're across the country. If you're part of specific faculties, each university or college it operates a little bit different. Some are specific to their students and faculty. And then at York specifically, for example, we have us who works across the country with anyone in the form of entrepreneurship. But then we have also our faculty-driven programs that are more specific to those faculties. So, for example, we have Schulich Startups, which is solely focused on Schulich students and Schulich alumni. Then we have Lassonde, the BEST program, which is specifically focused on our engineering students. And then we have some with the Faculty of Health, Faculty of Science. So each faculty tends to have their own little program as well. So depending on where you're coming from, there are specific ones for you. But for us, for YSpace specifically, we work with anyone across the country in Canada.
Great, thank you. So Jason, you are at the helm of entrepreneurship, the agent in change to all of this. Did you start it as a side hustle yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you got started, why you decided to jump into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay.
Hear you great, personally. Yeah.
Awesome. No, so yes, the business was started as a side hustle. So very, I don't know if that was an intuitive or just a guess on your part, but we originally, this business, Evolution Data, I had an expertise in the telecom space. I worked in telecom for 10 plus years. And as I transitioned out of telecom into a different role, more of a individual contributor type role, I still kept the side hustle of working in the telecom space alive. So again, if folks are looking to, as I guess it was outlined by my other colleagues here, about keeping a side hustle or starting a side hustle or maintaining one based on maybe an interest that you have, or you are into like flying drones on the weekend and doing wedding photography, or you like doing something that is maybe not a thing you can envision making a large salary at doing, but you're just doing it because you have a passion for it. For me, it was a little bit of that as well. Like, I love the telecom space and connectivities, and these things. Mobile phones were just back in those days, Blackberries, if anybody remembers those. I don't know if any of the Gen Z folks remember those, but they were a thing. And when we used to be in that space, that was really it was just the emerging days of smartphones, etc. So I stayed very much connected to that world. And as that world started to mature and grow, I just started a little business to gain some income, where I had my primary business when I worked at one of the large banks. So, over time, the income, I guess, levels started to cross one another, where you were making as much money during your day job as you were on your side hustle. And you're like, well, I really like this. This is what pays the bills, but wait, this can pay the bills. So let me just stop doing the day-to-day job, the 9 to 5, and make this my 9 to 5. And I was lucky enough to have a few folks work with me that were helpful on the operational side, that helped organize the side hustle, because as David said as well, there are ups and downs and pits and valleys to it all, and you don't really know what you're going to experience as it relates to the joys and the sorrows around entrepreneurship. So once you're in it, and luckily with a side hustle, you get a little bit of a preview of what it's like, what it's like to do your own bookkeeping, what it's like to get that first customer check, and what it's like to deliver the service or deliver the product that you're in business to do on your side hustle. So you get it's almost like getting a sneak preview before you jump in with 2 feet. So I do admire those folks that entrepreneurship from day one is their objective, and they're looking to create a product, create a service, or what have you, and just grow it from the base up. I really admire them, because they are going forward without the opportunity of foresight. So you're just really jumping in there. So yeah, our business was started as a side hustle. We're not a massive enterprise at this point, because our growth aspirations were relatively measured. So we do well enough to feed the family and have a little bit extra, and sometimes that's good enough.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it takes a special type of also resilience to do those both at the same time, a lot of hard work and dedication. I'm going to ask you the next question before also asking Ramona and Dave. What have been the greatest challenges for you, given the current economic context around the world? And how have you incorporated sustainable planning despite those challenges, or maybe sustainable planning because of those challenges? So looking at challenges in the Canadian context, and you can also include abroad if you are currently exporting.
Yeah, no, great question. So I guess you can look at sustainable in a few different lights. One is obviously the environment and the SDG stuff around the United Nations piece. So you can look at sustainability from that level and that whole lens. But I'll look at sustainability as sustaining business, staying in business and making sure you keep the lights on and you have money to pay your employees. So our challenge, because we're in a cyclical business where we have our largest competitor is also our largest supplier. So with that comes challenges, because there could be opportunities where you're bidding against your partner or you're bidding against your supplier. So I say our darkest hour was when we had to have our supplier basically take away our largest customer. And it wasn't by the customers. The customer wanted to save money, as customers tend to do. And our supplier, again, was in a position where they could help them a lot more than we could. So we had to walk away from a big opportunity that really hurt us financially, because we were in hyper growth mode. This customer was an anchor customer, I would call them, that was allowing us to invest and spend and do a lot more things than we could if we didn't have that customer. So that whole refocusing now that we're in the process of doing or just coming out of was a big moment or pivotal part in our business, where we had to decide, okay, this has been great for so long, but the market is changing. And that's the whole, again, sustainability piece, is that you need to continually sustain and reinvent your business to deal with things that happen that are beyond your control. You're humming along, you're having people, you're hiring partners, you're working with channel people, you're working internally with your team, and then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled underneath from you with a customer who gives you a lot of revenue that allows you to do these things. So, having the resilience to say, what, we're going to pivot. I hate to use that word, but it seems like a COVID word, but we're going to pivot, and we're going to try to be more valuable and, again, sustainable in our business in a different area. So that's what we actually did. We're very much focused now, and I don't think I mentioned it here, on sustainability in either waste management and starting to look at using sensor technologies to improve outcomes. So David will talk about York University and some of the things around sustainability there, maybe offline. But I think as it relates to sustainability sensors, creating a better environment for the environment, it's something that we've taken a little bit of a closer look at, because that's what sensors do. That's what sensors can do. So we're very much focused on that now as a pivot, if you will, to our data business.
Awesome, thank you. And I like how you weaved in, one, profits are the greatest form of sustainability, and that's what's going to ensure the other sustainability, right? Which is being able to apply practices for our planet and for our people. And then also the waste initiative you have is really great. I've seen a lot of IoT applications proven beneficial in that. I'd love to hear about that more. But first, over to you, Ramona. So we know that the side hustle entrepreneurship is becoming attractive because economic conditions on unemployment from one end, or simply this promise, that you can be making more. But we're also seeing on the flip side that entrepreneurship is becoming increasingly difficult in Canada, especially you could say high growth entrepreneurship. With new tech business models, we are also seeing unfavorable policies for entrepreneurs, like a new capital gains tax. So what are you seeing on the ground in terms of the challenges entrepreneurs are facing?
I think it's a combination of those, Dana. And like on the ground, it's really interesting. One of the biggest challenges of the entrepreneurs that I work with on the main streets, okay, is the fact that they get so involved in their business that they're not working on their business. And so they get very, very focused on, you know, I must do this or I've got to do this. And they're not looking at what opportunities are available to them. And so the other interesting thing is that they're looking at what everybody else is telling you you should be doing. And so I'm a really, like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, to Jason's point about tech and all of that, right? I have people who are really, really great pen and paper people, and they've managed their businesses that way. And all of a sudden they're being told, no, you need to do this. And this is the big thing. And so what's happening is we're seeing a lot of Main Street businesses are being told that this is what you need to do, this is where you need to go, but they don't have the core learning about how to implement it. And this is the bigger challenge, right? Is that they're so good at doing their due, they can't figure out how it fits into the rest of the world. To your point, Dana, there is not a lot of money available as well. Like there isn't anything supporting small business, small entrepreneurship. There's stuff for tech, there's stuff for, you know, agriculture, mass production. But when we look at day-to-day running a business, there isn't a lot of support for that. And that becomes very, very problematic for the small entrepreneur, because as a small entrepreneur, you're left having to fund your business yourself. And so it's based on your credit, your experience, your knowledge. And there isn't that kind of support that you can bring in. At the small grassroots level, you're not finding angel investors that are going to, like, you know, really going to invest in your main street. And so one of the things that we're finding, and it's really, really funny, and I equate it to having worked in Toronto. For anybody that's ever taken the GO bus or the GO train, and there were 2 years that I could never tell you who the person beside me was. Like if something happened, if there were a robbery or someone was hurt, you'd be hard pressed to describe who the person you were sitting with was. And this is the one thing now from an entrepreneurship from a main street. We are really taking it back with businesses to develop their community or their tribe. How can you work with another business on the street to be able to strengthen up? And so even sharing things like your social media groups, what you do, becomes really, really important. And we really are going back to very simple models that were like, you know, 1950s, 1960s. And Jason, I still remember the rotary phones, to forget the BlackBerry. I grew up with a rotary phone, okay? But bringing back some of those simple concepts, that not everything needs to cost money. There's ways that you can work together, bringing that sense of community. And so some of the people on this call here, as I'm watching where they're from, they generally, like, you know, when you look at some of the African or Asian communities, everything that they do is built on a sense of community, that everybody finds someone's strength and you all work together. And it's this concept of working together to build a stronger core. We're seeing a lot of that coming into what's happening on main streets right now. So I'm hoping that answered the question.
Yeah, very much so. And you open a lot of other very interesting topics. So I do know that even tech has issues with the amount of funding being funneled into tech right now. But an important thing is that the foundation of our markets, so those businesses, those Main Street businesses, also help to create foundation for larger tech companies to succeed. And I do know community is becoming a central topic, engaging entire entrepreneurial stack. So it's not just the entrepreneurs and the program managers, but it is the country's lawyers, the country's economic developers, the country's NGO leaders. Everyone really needs to come together for this entrepreneurial development. David, can you talk to us about that? What is the role of community?
Yeah, I think we always say it takes a village to kind of do this, and it truly does. So we work a lot with our local municipalities and economic development offices. We work a lot with the nonprofits. There's regional innovation centers. There's Ontario Center of Innovation. Like, you can list off a whole suite of community partners and folks who all have the same mandate and then, the same focus and goal, which is we want to see innovation thrive in Ontario and in Canada, and we want to see our entrepreneurs do well. There's its own challenges and hurdles, but I think as a whole, the collective has really come together to see what we can do to really help streamline and make things a little bit easier where we can, where possible. So, a lot of us, I think what we're starting to see in the ecosystem that's really great. And I don't know if we saw as much as now, it's like there's starting to become specialized resources and services, which has really helped because it's, as an entrepreneur, I think part of the challenge is there's just so much information on the internet when you're starting off, when you're trying to find grants, when you're trying to find financing options, whatever it is. It's just, you go on the internet, you type in some words, and Google is great at pumping out a bunch of searches. But that's also the challenge. It's just there's so much and it's so overwhelming. So the specialization within some of these groups has become really important. And we're seeing more events and activations where folks can kind of come out and start having these initial conversations, and we're seeing the collaboration. So good example for us is, some of our companies, we will see them go through our program. We will also see them go through the DMZ program at TMU. We'll see them go through Y Combinator down south. Then we'll see them go with a trade commissioner's office to a trade accelerator program in Asia and run business. But that whole ecosystem, we're always talking and we're always trying to share resources. And that's what makes a really unique and special story for some of the businesses that we have, is that they've taken advantage of every opportunity they can. And our role that I see for folks like ourselves, incubator accelerators or community partners, is to present our founders with information that makes it easier for them to make day-to-day decisions and business decisions. So help them understand, what are good financing options versus not so great? What are some good terms and rates that you should look at? Who are investors you should talk to, and who are investors maybe you shouldn't talk to? So our role is to really help streamline as much as we can, go out there, build that community of trusted network and trusted vendors, if you will, even, and service providers that we know that if we make an introduction for our founders, they're going to have a great experience. They're going to go and get some good opportunities. And the municipalities, I would say, in more recently I've seen, has done a really good job of starting to step up to the plate a little bit and providing more support. So they do have, micro grants like the Starter Company Plus for students, and then Summer Company Plus for students, and Starter Company Plus for folks who are just starting off, between $3,000 to $5,000. But then they're also starting to put on a lot more events and networking opportunities where they're bringing out their local communities. Because I think post-COVID, what we're seeing a lot is virtual is great, and we've been doing virtual for a long time, but a lot of people who live locally want to meet up. So, we have an office in Markham, and we do a lot of activations in Markham, and the people that we see coming out, we're hearing a lot is, I used to go downtown for this. I'm so happy it's in my backyard now. And that we're starting to see a lot of, and I think that's going to be an important next step for a lot of municipalities and communities, is to start bringing back some of those physical events so that there's natural networking and kind of relationship building that can happen as well.
That's really great. And I think you're absolutely right. Community empowers us with information that gives us the confidence to act. And Canada is notably known to be a bit risk averse. And so community can give us that confidence to kind of take a step forward. Jason, what role has community played for you in your business?
Me here. Well, community is big. I can admit that I haven't been as engaged in community historically as I am currently. I'm taking more of the opportunities that present themselves specifically in, Board of Trade meetings or going to networking events that are focused on just meeting folks who are either entrepreneurs like myself that have a very small company, or large companies that are presenting material or information about a particular sector that they're involved in. So I'm finding that again, if I look at that lens of, if I could talk to a 30-year-old plus version of myself, what would I tell him? I would say, as an entrepreneur, getting involved in community and being a participant in events like this, where you have an opportunity to meet people like I probably would have never met David or Ramona or yourself in any other format if I didn't participate in something like this. So the community of people who have common business objectives is one, but a community of people who have common pursuits is another, right? Like, obviously there's events that you go to where, they're looking, it's a career fair. Well, maybe not the best for us because we may not be hiring people, but there's other events that have people that are just, there for the free food, right? And you get events where you go there and you're like, what are you here for? Oh, I'm in real estate. What about him? Oh, he's in real estate too. So they're not really there to create any additional value. They're just maybe there to look for leads. But, a lot of times the real community events where you're doing things like this and you're talking about common challenges that we all experience, I think are amazing. And I'm starting to become more connected and involved in this. And I could say that, part of my relationship with the town of Milton here that I have has helped me kind of open my, expand my horizons a little bit, because their economic development team's been great and really pushing and encouraging me to participate. I've been to, a different, pitch contest. I've been to this particular event. There's a couple other things. I went to an initial testing of a new piece of equipment that they're deploying here to help with sustainability and waste management here in the town of Milton. So again, community relationship building. As an entrepreneur, that is your hidden superpower. You want to be able to leverage that as much as you can, because it's, I wouldn't say it's free business development, but it's free business development, right? Like, you just have to show up, have a business card, shake a hand. You see somebody standing over there not talking to anybody, approach them right away, introduce yourself, say, hey, my name's Jason, what do you do? And then get the conversation going. So community is a big part of, I think, building a business and maintaining growth. And I'm leveraging it now more than I ever have, like I said, to start to get introductions and meet more people. And it's, knock on wood, it's worked so far, or working so far.
Awesome. And it's really cool how you introspected there. And this is community right now. What we're doing right now is community, which is awesome. And I hope to be able to also turn the mic to some of our guests here today for questions. But just a couple more questions from me before then. So speaking of community, we talked about local community, engaging the local entrepreneurial stack. But what about international community, and specifically foreign direct investments, which we know has excellent impact on our economic prosperity? So Jason, I'm going to ask you, but Ramona and David, feel free to chime in on any insight you have on how we can attract foreign investment and the international community to what we're doing. But Jason, are you currently fundraising, and is foreign direct investment something that you consider?
Not currently. Always the back of the mind, something that I want to do. Haven't really engaged anyone that can make connections. I've made some connections with some folks through, the Conestoga Sales Lab, who have international background and international experience. So I'm very much learning that space and very much trying to develop some of our services and solutions outside of Canada. I'm more partial to the United States, just again because of proximity at this stage, but I'm very open to international markets and trying to take what we do here and my knowledge that we have here and expand in other markets. So yeah, foreign investment, open to it. Definitely would love to have somebody to mentor or learn from in that space. And again, through community and through conversations, I'm sure I'll find a person or two that has that foundation. But yeah, it's not currently, but very much on our roadmap to bring more investment or just bring more customers that are international and not just based here in Canada.
Awesome. Wish you the best with that. Ramona or David, would you like to talk about international community and foreign investment?
I can speak to the international community from a very small business perspective. Okay. I do a lot of work with newcomers, recent immigrants to Canada, and I'm doing a lot of work with people who are looking to bring their businesses that they have in different countries to Canada. And this is we're seeing a really big momentum in the way that people are perceiving the role of international in Canada. And so what's really unique to me when working with newcomers or international businesses is the first thing, if I hear one more person apologize for not being born in Canada, good Lord. Okay. And not embracing, like, the one thing about Canada with our bent on multiculturalism and the fact that, most of us are in, like, I'm first generation Canadian, so I really do get this concept of immigration. We're really seeing the concept of people being able to find their place in Canada, like, bring a little bit of home back to Canada. And so a lot of the businesses that you're seeing now that are starting up are from recent immigrants who are bringing part of their culture from their home into the Canadian marketplace. And again, I'm talking very, very small business. I'm not talking major foreign investment coming in, but we are seeing people bringing the businesses that they ran overseas and transplanting them into the Canadian marketplace. And this is really, really important for us to understand. And something Jason and David had both said before was the fact that, you look at the experiences that you bring to the table. It's you as an entrepreneur are unique based on your skills, your abilities, your background, your life, everything around you. And being able to embrace that has become really, really important. And so people are now starting to become a little bit more open. I just did a talk last night at a newcomer entrepreneurship group, and they're excited about being able to import things from their home country into Canada and being able to share their culture and their community with people here in Canada who may have a memory of when they lived over wherever it was, and are trying to build that. And so that seems to be something that we're seeing a lot more of, is the whole concept of multiculturalism, ethnicity, that the fact that, to your point, Dana, about, like, thinking globally, acting locally, that we are seeing this big shift in the way that we perceive what has come from other countries and how it can transplant itself here.
Thank you. Thank you. Great answer. David, how about you?
Yeah.
What trends are you seeing there?
I think on the foreign side, it's interesting. I think Canada's done a great job of bring folks across too. There's a lot of trade missions and stuff like that. So for companies that are looking to go abroad, like Trade Metro office runs what they call the Trade Accelerator program, where essentially they pick a part of the world, they do a theme, and then they'll say,
I've done
we'll bring a delegation over. Yeah, we'll bring a delegation. We'll set you up with meetings. We'll help you prep for it. Like, those are great. We've had a bunch of our companies go through that, and some comes out with contracts, relationships. So those trade missions are really good, and we've done a really good job of going out and become, sector specific and theme specific to kind of make sure there's elevated kind of presence of what we're doing and the types of companies that we're working with. And it's been interesting over time to just see specific countries that we pick on more than others. And Asia is very popular, Europe's very popular, US, of course, with San Francisco as well. But the themes have been really good. From an international coming here, I think it's interesting space to look at from an FDI perspective. I think, Canada is known for, really amazing talents in a couple different areas. I would say the one that we're seeing a lot is we're getting a lot of inquiries and we're having a lot of conversations around is AI development and training. So a lot of international companies, I think Toronto and Montreal, or so Canada as a whole on the East Coast side, it's like we've known to be the AI development hub. Like if you're developing AI, this is kind of one of the first places you go to, with Vector Institute, with everything that we have going on. So it's been interesting because we're getting a lot of international companies and delegations from different parts of the world saying, hey, we have this corporate partner, or we have this scale up. They're looking to develop their next version of an AI technology. Do you have researchers, or do you have folks that they could work with to develop that? And we're starting to see a lot of those opportunities come to light. Most recently, I would also say, like, Canada's become a really focus on semiconductors, and that's been a big part of it. We're seeing that with automotive movements, now with the med tech and medical life sciences space. We're seeing that quite a bit too. So I think over time we've picked themes. I would say currently right now from FDI, we're good at bringing those kind of opportunities forward. But I think where Canada's going to have to focus a little bit more, and we got to focus a little bit more on the FDI, is parts of it is, making it more affordable living. If I can be honest, that's the biggest piece that we're hearing. People want to move their businesses here. They want to come here. And then when they come here, they're like, oh, it's too expensive to live. It's how do I get around? It's just, unless you're in the downtown or in the Toronto, not even greater GTA, I would say Toronto, like, transit's complicated. It's really difficult to get around with a vehicle. But then once you move out and you need a vehicle, housing's also very expensive in the core. So then you move out and then you need a vehicle. So living situations, I think, is what we've heard has made it really difficult for a lot of international folks to come, and especially with some different situations going on. So a bit of a catch, we have really great talent, we have really great opportunities for international folks to come through from an FDI perspective, but then from a living perspective and kind of just the day-to-day lives, it makes it really difficult. So there's a little bit of a cross that we're at, which is why I think we're seeing a lot being poured into housing and trying to fix that. But until that kind of gets sorted out in a way, or transit improves drastically, it's going to be quite a bit of time and quite a bit of challenge to kind of have more folks come here.
Again, great answer. And yeah, the trade accelerator, what they were looking for, kind of responds to some of the questions of like, what makes a great entrepreneur? But they were looking for the business people who could see export as a low-hanging fruit and as a form of international engagement for our economic prosperity. So again, this concept of thinking global and building your business based on that. So we don't have much time for move over to questions. So just going to ask one more question for all of you. It's a bit controversial. You do not have to say yes. And maybe Jason, if you can somehow tie in your sustainable bottom lines or what you're doing with waste to this question some way or another. I want to know, do you believe it's a good time to start, grow, or scale a company right now, given the economic conditions, the way things are, but also the possibilities? Would you recommend starting and growing a business today in Canada?
There we go. Do I recommend starting a business in Canada? It's always a good time to start a business. I've never been shy away from opportunity and potential, I think are the two things you have to weigh. And, when I started looking to work with folks who are either coming to my organization as a salesperson or some other role, I always encourage them, for future growth, maybe tax prosperity and benefits, register yourself as a business, register, yourself as a sole proprietor, or if you're more ambitious, register yourself as a corporation. There's very inexpensive ways to do that. And, I don't want to plug anything, but I've used a couple where basically you open a bank account, they give you $300 and then they pay back a portion of your startup fees for your entrepreneurial endeavor when you register your articles of incorporation. So there's definitely, there's no good time to start a business. Just like if you're, in that family phase, there's no good time to start a family. It just happens when it happens, right?
Right.
You can't plan for that. But my opinion is, it's always a good time to start a business. Just make sure you understand what you're getting into. And sometimes it's good, again, the side hustle idea, to not risk the farm day one,
right?
But just to test and see if there is some staying power to what you're doing. So yes.
Yeah, and in testing, there's learning. And is it possible to incorporate sustainability planning today through all of this?
Well, I guess, again, I'll look at it from two levels. So sustainability around, making sure your business doesn't go bankrupt and you have money to feed your family, sustainability. So I'd say, yes, there is, as long as you plan appropriately and maybe go a little bit slimmer. But when it comes to sustainable, thanks for putting that up. In terms of creating a sustainable, socially responsible enterprise, there is no better time for that right now. There's just so much opportunity and gaps where you have big organizations that don't understand the small impacts of sustainability as it relates to even something as simple as in my case, waste management. Being able to put a sensor into a waste container and be able to tell when you need to remove that waste versus having a guy go around on a very scheduled basis and look into that container and say, well, okay, we need to change this garbage, or, oh, well, I didn't bring the right truck. Let me go get complete waste of energy. And right now, efficiency is king, and being able to create an enterprise, a business that helps enhance the efficiency for large organizations, it's a great opportunity for that, because organizations are very inefficient. And I don't want to get into that, but great time for sustainability development for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Ramona, what's your take? Real quick, sorry, we're running slow on time, but I've been trying to answer the question.
I think it's a really great time, but I think the key is that you need to know who it is that you're selling and what it is that you're selling. Who does it benefit and why is it there? And if you haven't done that research, If I get one more person who calls me and says, but I have an Etsy store, everybody on Etsy should be making millions. There are millions of people selling the exact same thing on Etsy. So you have to realize that just because someone has told you that this is the way to go, that you've done your research, that you know who you're going after, becomes really, really, really important. And this whole concept of equitable access, supporting community well-being, the more people that you can get behind you that believe in what you do. I'm a really big Simon Sinek. It's not what you do, it's why you do it. That people will buy, that people will like support you if they can believe the same thing. If you are like me and we believe the same thing, that we can work together. That is really the way to, from a community level, is so important, and that drives economic growth as you work together. So that's my answer to that one.
Awesome. David.
I think everyone's kind of talked about it a little bit in terms of different things. I think what we're seeing as well is like kind of thinking about how you measure it as well. Like I think I'll flip the coin the other side, where we're seeing a lot of folks, to Ramona's point, wants to be like, why can't I do this, like differentiators? But then I think my fear of it is that it becomes a bit of a gimmick. People say it just so they're a part of the conversation, but then they don't really think about the impact and measurement report. So a lot of the times when we're working with our sustainable companies that are on the sustainability side, or sustainable tech, or kind of are in that realm, what we try to focus on as well is like, well, how you actually measuring that sustainability impact, and what does that look like at the end? And how do you communicate that? Because some part of it is, being able to communicate that with your investors, with your customers, with your potential partners. Like that's equally as important. So it's nice to be able to say you're a sustainable tech company, but what are the actual measurements that are coming out of it? How are you measuring it? What is that process to really think through it? And that's where we're starting to see a lot more folks really having some of those conversations. And it turns it less of a trendy topic, more of an actual core part of the business, which is also the other part that I really want them to focus on. So then it's really part ingrained in their business model and kind of what they want to do as well.
Thank you as well. We are 1 minute to the hour, and what I've done is tried to answer some of these questions from the chat box in our discussion, which we've done. But do you have 5 more minutes to open up the mics to our guests and get any more live questions answered? Okay, great. So thank you for the questions in the question and answer box. We'd love to hear your voices. So if you would like to ask a live question, please raise your hand now. I see Saeed or Said, you have your hand up. Please go ahead and ask your question to our panel. You are muted. There you go.
Hello.
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 Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving my time. My question is, what should the small entrepreneur do to be a great and successful entrepreneur? Because my name is Harun Shah. I'm from Afghanistan. So in our country, there's not a successful way. There's not a good facilities to be a successful entrepreneur. What are the ways to be a good entrepreneurs? This is my question.
Thank you. So any answers about how do you succeed when you don't find that support system around you?
Mona, you want to tackle that one, or David?
Jason, go ahead, and then I'll just chime in if you have something.
I think just for me, you really want to believe in yourself. You want to give yourself an opportunity to fail. Try something. It doesn't work out, then try something else. So you need to be persistent. That's the advice I can give you. And if it doesn't work the way that you originally designed it, maybe make a little bit of an adjustment and then try something else. It's just a continual process of trial and error until you find something that you really are getting success on and that you really enjoy doing. That, again, I don't want to use a cheesy term, but it becomes like doesn't feel like work. You're just doing something you love and you're enjoying it. So that's my advice, is just keep trying.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Jason, is that whatever your entrepreneurship, whatever your bent is, it has to be something that you have a passion about. And I hate to overuse the word passion, but if you feel like, if you're excited about something, Okay, it's very easy to excite other people about it because you can share, you can talk about it, and it's building that kind of tribe around you, that people who feel like, you know, what you're doing is worthwhile. If internally there aren't the supports for the resources or the information, then it's trying to figure out, and God bless the web, it does have a lot of great information. You have to sort of sometimes filter out the, you know, what is true information and what works for your community. And I think the other thing is you need to understand who it is that you are selling to and what their need is. Because one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs have is not understanding the needs of their clients and how they meet those needs, and just sort of coming up going, I have this to sell, you need to buy it because I'm selling it, not how my product or service can help you be better. You have to change the narrative. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you are selling to or want to sell to, and understand how they would want to be spoken to, how they would want to be interacted with. Becomes really, really important in the way that you position yourself.
I love that. But great points of feedback there. And I would agree, believing in yourself first and leveraging, you know, the resources that do exist, like the web, for researching, research. And as David shows here, a lot of universities also have support systems that are open for everybody, not just members of the university. So if you look deep enough, I think you'll find people similar to you, and you could build a community through that. Thank you. We have time for one more quick question. Any more questions? Please raise your hand. All right, looks like there's none. I want to thank our esteemed panel. The information you presented has been wonderful, and definitely a step in the right direction for all entrepreneurs. This session will be available online for everybody to reference. We do continue to see economic prosperity via entrepreneurship, especially with your support systems. Thank you for sharing our stories with us, and I hope you'll have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
I
Dana.
just wanted to also quickly thank everybody for taking the time to be here for the panel. Thank you, Dana, as well, for moderating. And of course, thank you to our audience for being here and asking questions. And just as a quick reminder, this is a monthly series, so our next session will be November 13th, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Please mark that on your calendar, share it in your networks. Registration is always open and free. And as Dana mentioned, the recording will be up on our YouTube channel afterwards, so you can always go back to that for if you want to reference or revisit anything. And yeah, so just thank you so much to everybody.
I hope I
was
didn't
great.
ask any challenging questions or difficult questions. That's all good.
No,
Yeah, I
very good.
personally loved the discussion, so thank you. And yes, do join us for future speaker sessions. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so
everyone.
much.